Someone feels at home with you because you defined what belonging is, and that is not a small thing. It is not accidental, and it is not luck. It is the result of 1,000 quiet choices you made when no one was applauding you, when no one was watching closely enough to reward you for being gentle, patient, and steady. Belonging does not come from grand gestures. It comes from the way you stayed when it would have been easier to leave, from the way you listened when you could have spoken over someone, from the way you created safety without ever announcing that you were doing so. Belonging is a feeling that settles into the bones. It is not loud. It does not demand attention. It whispers instead. It says, "You can rest here." And when someone feels that with you, it means you taught them, through consistency, not promises, that they do not have to perform to earn your presence. They do not have to explain themselves into exhaustion. They do not have to shrink, or pretend, or become something more impressive. With you, they can simply be. You defined belonging by being predictable in the best way. Not boring, not rigid, but emotionally reliable. You showed up as the same person on good days and bad ones. Your care did not disappear when someone was struggling. Your respect did not fade when they were inconvenient. Over time, that steadiness became a shelter. And without realizing it, they began to associate you with relief, with exhaling, with the rare comfort of not being on guard. Many people think belonging is about similarity, shared interests, shared history, shared language. But you prove that belonging is about acceptance. It is about being seen without being judged, about being known without being used. You made space for differences without trying to correct them. You allowed contradictions without demanding clarity. You understood that people are complicated, and you did not punish them for it. Belonging grows where patience lives. You practiced patience when someone took longer to open up than you expected. You did not rush their healing or push them to move on before they were ready. You did not make their pain about your discomfort. Instead, you sat with it. You normalized it. You showed them, gently and repeatedly, that they were not a burden for feeling deeply or struggling openly. That is why they feel at home with you. Home is not a place where everything is perfect. Home is a place where imperfection is allowed to exist without fear. You allowed mistakes without keeping score. You offered forgiveness without attaching shame. You corrected with kindness when it mattered, and you let go when it did not. In doing so, you taught them that love does not have to hurt to be real. You defined belonging through the way you paid attention. You noticed small changes in mood, shifts in energy, moments of silence that carried meaning. You did not demand explanations, but you offered curiosity. You asked questions that invited honesty, not defensiveness. And when the answers were messy, unfinished, or uncertain, you did not withdraw. You stayed engaged. You stayed human, there is a particular kind of courage required to make someone feel like they belong. It means risking being affected by them. It means allowing their emotions to touch you, their stories to change you, their presence to matter. You did not keep a safe emotional distance. You did not love from behind walls. You stepped forward, knowing that connection always carries the possibility of pain. And you did it anyway. Belonging also comes from respect. You respected their boundaries without taking them personally. You honored their no as much as their yes. You did not try to earn closeness by crossing lines. Instead, you built trust by staying on your side of them. That respect made it possible for them to relax, to stop bracing themselves for disappointment or pressure. When someone feels at home with you, it is often because you gave them permission to be unfinished. You did not expect them to have it all figured out. You did not tie your care to their success or productivity. You valued who they were, not what they could offer you. In a world that constantly measures worth, you were a place where measurement stopped. You also defined belonging by how you handled conflict. You did not disappear at the first sign of tension. You did not turn disagreement into abandonment. You were willing to talk, to listen, to take responsibility when you were wrong. You did not weaponize silence or distance. You showed them that connection does not have to end just because things get uncomfortable, that consistency rewires people. It changes what they expect from relationships. It teaches them that closeness can be safe, that intimacy does not always lead to loss. You may never fully realize the impact of that. You may never hear the internal monologues you quieted, the fears you softened, the self-doubt you challenged simply by being present and kind. Belonging is also created in the way you celebrate others. You did not compete with their joy. You did not minimize their achievements. You allowed their happiness to exist without comparison. You made room for their light without trying to outshine it. That generosity told them that there was space for them to grow without leaving you behind. Sometimes belonging is defined by what you did not do. You did not mock their vulnerability. You did not gossip about their weaknesses. You did not use their trust as currency. You protected what was shared with you. You treated their inner world as something sacred. That protection created safety, and safety created home. You understood that belonging is not about possession. You did not cling. You did not control. You did not make them feel guilty for having a life beyond you. Instead, you supported their independence while remaining emotionally available. You proved that closeness does not require captivity. That love does not have to limit freedom. In doing all of this, you became a reference point. A standard. Someone now knows, because of you, what it feels like to be treated well. They know what emotional security feels like in the body. And even if circumstances change, even if paths diverge, that knowledge stays with them. You gave them something permanent, an internal sense of what belonging can be. It is important to recognize that creating belonging often goes unnoticed. People rarely stop to say, "Thank you for making me feel safe." They just stay. They linger longer. They return. Or they carry you with them quietly, as a memory of warmth in a colder world. Do not underestimate that. Do not dismiss it because it did not come with applause. You may sometimes wonder if your softness is a weakness. If your patience is taken for granted. If your openness costs you more than it gives back. But understand this, the ability to make someone feel at home is a rare strength. It requires emotional intelligence, humility, and resilience. It requires you to choose empathy even when you are tired. Belonging is built moment by moment. In how you greet someone. In how you respond when they are quiet. In how you hold space for feelings that are not convenient. You did those things without making a show of it. And that is why they mattered. Someone feels at home with you because you did not try to be impressive. You tried to be real. You allowed yourself to be imperfect, to apologize, to grow. That authenticity gave them permission to do the same. You met them as a human being, not a project, not a role, not a responsibility. You also defined belonging by staying emotionally present. You were not always distracted, not always halfway somewhere else. When you were with them, you were with them. That presence communicated value more loudly than words ever could. It said, "You matter enough for my attention." Belonging does not mean there were no boundaries, no limits, no hard conversations. It means those things existed within a framework of care. You balanced honesty with kindness. You did not avoid truth to keep the peace, but you delivered it with respect. That balance built trust. When someone feels at home with you, it often means you helped them reconnect with themselves. You reflected them accurately. You saw their strengths and named them. You noticed their resilience even when they felt weak. Over time, they began to see themselves differently because you saw them clearly first. This kind of impact is not accidental. It is the result of emotional labor that is often invisible. Of choosing compassion when it would be easier to detach. Of remaining open in a world that encourages numbness. You did not harden. You did not close off. You stayed soft without becoming fragile, and yes, that comes at a cost. People who create belonging often carry more emotional weight. They are the ones others lean on. They are the ones who hold stories, secrets, and pain. If that is you, remember to create belonging for yourself as well. Remember that you deserve the same safety you give so freely. Someone feels at home with you because you showed them that they do not have to earn love by suffering. That care does not have to be conditional. That rest is allowed. That being human is enough. In a world that constantly demands more, you offered acceptance. That is not ordinary. That is not small. That is transformative, even if they never say it out loud, even if they move on, even if life changes. Know this: you defined what belonging is for someone. You left a mark that is not loud, not visible, but deeply felt. You became a place where their nervous system could relax, where their heart could unclench, where their true self could breathe, and that is one of the most meaningful things a person can ever be. And even after that sense of home has been established, even after belonging has taken root, the quiet work continues. Belonging is not a one-time achievement. It is something you renew, often without realizing it, through presence, through restraint, through choosing care again and again. You continue to define it in the way you respond on ordinary days, when nothing dramatic is happening, when there is no crisis to prove your loyalty. Those are the moments that deepen the feeling of home the most. Someone feels at home with you because you do not disappear when things become mundane. You understand that connection is not only forged in intensity, but sustained in consistency. You show up for the small things. You remember details that others forget. You ask how they are and actually wait for the answer. You do not rush past their inner world just to get to the next distraction. That steadiness makes your presence feel grounded, real, and dependable. You also define belonging by how you allow silence. You do not fill every gap with noise or advice. You understand that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is simply be there without trying to fix anything. Your silence is not absence, it is companionship. It says, you don't have to entertain me. You don't have to explain yourself. You are enough as you are, even in this quiet moment. For many people, that kind of silence is unfamiliar. They are used to spaces where silence means disapproval, distance, or impending abandonment. With you, they learn something new. They learn that silence can be safe. That it can be shared. That it can feel like sitting on a familiar couch at the end of a long day, not needing to perform, not needing to impress. You define belonging in the way you let people change. You do not trap them in an old version of themselves. You do not punish growth by insisting they stay who they used to be for your comfort. You allow evolution, even when it shifts the dynamic. You understand that people are not static, and you do not make love conditional on their remaining familiar. That flexibility creates freedom. And freedom is essential to belonging. People cannot feel at home where they are monitored, judged, or controlled. They feel at home where they are trusted. You trust people to know themselves, to make their own decisions, to learn from their own experiences. You offer guidance when asked, not commands. You support without smothering. Someone feels at home with you because you do not make their emotions inconvenient. You do not label them as too much or too sensitive. You do not minimize what matters to them just because it would be easier if they felt less. You validate feelings without dramatizing them. You hold space without amplifying chaos. That emotional balance makes your presence feel regulating, calming, and safe. You also define belonging through humility. You are willing to say, "I was wrong." You are willing to learn. You do not need to dominate every conversation or prove your point at all costs. You care more about understanding than winning. That humility disarms defensiveness. It invites openness. It tells people they do not have to protect themselves around you. Belonging is strengthened by how you respond when someone trusts you with their truth. You do not rush to judge or analyze. You listen fully. You ask thoughtful questions. You reflect back what you hear so they feel understood, not interrogated. And when their truth is complicated or uncomfortable, you do not pull away. You stay present, steady, respectful. You have likely noticed that people open up to you without fully knowing why. They tell you things they rarely share. They feel lighter after talking to you. That is not coincidence. That is the result of emotional safety you have cultivated. You have become a container strong enough to hold honesty without collapsing or reacting. Someone feels at home with you because you do not confuse closeness with entitlement. You do not believe access to someone's inner world gives you the right to control it. You treat vulnerability as a gift, not a tool. You handle it with care. That care builds trust, and trust builds belonging. You also define belonging by how you handle distance. When someone needs space, you do not chase them in panic or punish them with coldness. You allow space without withdrawing love. You understand that distance does not always mean rejection. Sometimes it means rest, reflection, or self-preservation. Your ability to stay emotionally secure during these moments prevents unnecessary rupture. This emotional maturity makes you feel like home because home is not threatened by every storm. Home remains standing. Home waits. Home does not disappear the moment someone steps outside. You define belonging in the way you respond to someone's fears. You do not shame them for being afraid. You do not dismiss their anxieties as irrational. You acknowledge the fear, even if you do not fully share it. You reassure without invalidating. You offer perspective without forcing it. That balance helps people feel understood rather than corrected. Belonging is also built through how you respect people's timing. You do not demand immediate answers, immediate healing, immediate clarity. You allow things to unfold at their own pace. You trust the process. That patience reduces pressure, and without pressure, people can breathe. You may not always realize how rare this is. Many people grow up in environments where love is conditional, where acceptance depends on behavior, achievement, or obedience. When they encounter someone like you, someone who offers steadiness without strings, it can feel unfamiliar at first. sometimes even uncomfortable. But over time, that unfamiliarity softens into relief. Someone feels at home with you because you offer emotional warmth without obligation. You do not keep a mental ledger of favors given and received. You do not make kindness transactional. You give because you care, not because you expect repayment. That generosity of spirit creates a sense of abundance rather than scarcity. You define belonging through how you allow people to rest around you. They do not feel the need to be on all the time. They can be tired, quiet, uncertain. They can show up without having something interesting to say. You do not measure their value by their energy level or usefulness. That permission to rest is deeply healing. Belonging is reinforced by the way you speak about others, especially when they are not present. You do not tear people down to bond with someone else. You do not expose private information for entertainment. You protect dignity even in absence. That integrity builds trust at a deeper level than compliments ever could. You define belonging by being emotionally available, not emotionally invasive. You are open, but not overwhelming. You are caring, but not consuming. You understand that closeness thrives in balance. That understanding allows people to feel safe engaging with you without fear of being engulfed. Someone feels at home with you because you do not require them to mask their pain to keep your comfort intact. You can sit with discomfort. You can witness grief, confusion, anger, and sadness without needing to fix it immediately. You understand that emotions are not problems to solve, but experiences to be honored. You also define belonging through encouragement that is grounded in reality. You do not offer empty positivity or dismiss struggles with clichés. You acknowledge difficulty while still believing in their capacity to endure. That realistic hope feels trustworthy. It does not invalidate pain, but it does not get lost in it either. Belonging grows where people feel seen over time. You remember who they were when they doubted themselves. You notice how far they have come. You reflect that growth back to them. Sometimes you see progress they cannot yet see themselves. That reflection helps anchor their sense of identity. You may never fully grasp how deeply this impacts someone. Feeling at home with another person can change the trajectory of a life. It can teach someone that healthy connection exists. That love can be stable. That they do not have to accept chaos or neglect as normal. You define belonging by modeling emotional responsibility. You did not expect others to manage your feelings for you. You took ownership of your reactions. You communicated instead of exploding or withdrawing. That accountability made the emotional environment around you feel safer and more predictable. Someone feels at home with you because you allow joy to be simple. You do not complicate happiness with suspicion or jealousy. You can enjoy moments as they are, without anticipating loss. That ability to stay present in good moments teaches others to do the same. Belonging is sustained by how you handle endings, transitions, and changes. Even when circumstances shift, you do not erase shared history. You do not invalidate what once mattered. You honor the connection for what it was, without bitterness. That grace allows people to carry the relationship as something meaningful rather than painful. You define belonging by being emotionally generous without losing yourself. You have boundaries, values, and limits. You do not abandon your own needs to be needed. That self-respect actually strengthens belonging, because it models healthy connection rather than sacrifice-based attachment. Someone feels at home with you because you understand that belonging starts internally. You have done enough inner work to be comfortable with yourself. That self-acceptance radiates outward. People feel it. They sense that you are not looking to fill a void through them. You are choosing connection, not clinging to it. This kind of presence is grounding. It steadies people. It helps them regulate their emotions simply by being near you. You become a reference point for calm, clarity, and emotional safety, and even on days when you doubt yourself, when you feel unseen or unappreciated, this truth remains. Someone feels at home with you because you defined what belonging is. Not through perfection, not through intensity, but through authenticity, consistency, and care. That impact does not fade. It echoes. It shows up in how they treat others, in what they tolerate, in what they seek, in what they believe they deserve. You may never see the full ripple effect of your presence, but it exists. Belonging is one of the deepest human needs. To give that to someone, even quietly, even imperfectly, is profound. And you have done that, simply by being who you are, again and again, when it mattered most. And even as this story reaches its quiet end, the truth of it keeps moving forward. Belonging does not conclude with a final moment or a perfect memory. It continues to live inside the people you touched, shaping how they relate to the world long after the details blur. When someone feels at home with you, they carry that feeling into rooms you will never enter, into conversations you will never hear, into choices you will never witness. Your influence travels farther than your presence ever could. Someone feels at home with you because you showed them that they do not have to brace themselves for rejection at every turn. You softened their instinct to anticipate loss. You helped their nervous system learn a new rhythm, one that does not constantly prepare for disappointment. That is not something that fades quickly. It becomes part of how they move through life, how they trust, how they hope. You defined belonging by offering emotional honesty without cruelty. You spoke truth without tearing someone down. You expressed needs without issuing ultimatums. You held yourself accountable without collapsing into shame. In doing so, you modeled a way of being that feels mature, balanced, and deeply humane. People feel safe around those who can hold truth and compassion at the same time. Belonging also grows from the way you allowed people to keep their dignity. Even in moments of disagreement or disappointment, you did not humiliate or belittle. You did not use someone's vulnerable moments against them later. You let difficult conversations end with respect intact. That respect lingers. It becomes a memory of being treated well, even when things were hard. Someone feels at home with you because you never treated their presence as replaceable. You did not act as though connection was disposable. You did not threaten abandonment to gain compliance. You showed, through behavior rather than promises, that people matter to you. That sense of being valued, not just enjoyed, but valued, creates deep emotional security. You defined belonging in the way you handled uncertainty. You did not pretend to have all the answers. You were honest about what you did not know. You allowed ambiguity without panic. You trusted that clarity would come in time. That calm relationship with uncertainty helped others feel less anxious about their own unanswered questions. Belonging is also reflected in how you honored people's stories. You did not rush them past their past. You did not shame them for where they came from. You listened without trying to rewrite their narrative. You understood that everyone's history is layered, complex, and deserving of respect. That understanding allowed people to feel fully seen, not edited. Someone feels at home with you because you made room for contradiction. You did not demand consistency where growth was happening. You allowed people to be strong and struggling, confident and afraid, certain one day and unsure the next. You understood that being human is not about coherence, but about honesty. That acceptance creates a powerful sense of belonging. You defined belonging by not making love conditional on emotional performance. You did not withdraw care when someone was not at their best. You did not reward only the easy parts of them. You stayed connected through the uncomfortable, the awkward, the unresolved. That endurance taught them that connection can survive imperfection. There is a quiet generosity in the way you allowed people to keep their pace. You did not pressure them to open faster, heal quicker, or commit sooner than they were ready. You respected their internal timing. That respect communicates trust, and trust is the foundation of belonging. Someone feels at home with you because you did not confuse intensity with intimacy. You understood that depth is built through safety, not urgency. You did not force closeness before trust was ready. You allowed connection to unfold naturally. That patience made the closeness you shared feel earned, not rushed. Belonging is strengthened by how you remembered people in their absence. You held them with kindness even when they were not around. You did not rewrite the relationship in your mind to justify distance or change. You honored what was real without needing it to stay the same forever. You defined belonging by being emotionally literate. You named feelings without dramatizing them. You recognized patterns without shaming them. You understood that emotions carry information, not moral value. That literacy made emotional conversations with you feel clarifying rather than overwhelming. Someone feels at home with you because you did not require perfection to remain connected. You allowed repair. You allowed awkward apologies. You allowed learning curves. You believe that people can grow, and you gave them the grace to do so. That belief can change how someone sees themselves for years. Belonging is also built through how you hold joy and pain at the same time. You did not rush someone out of grief just because joy existed elsewhere. You allowed complex emotional states to coexist. You understood that life is not either-or. That understanding made your presence feel spacious, not restrictive. You defined belonging by how you stayed curious instead of judgmental. When something did not make sense to you, you asked questions rather than forming conclusions. You sought understanding over certainty. That curiosity kept connection open even when clarity was incomplete. Someone feels at home with you because you did not make your love a moving target. Your care was not unpredictable or manipulative. It did not depend on moods or leverage. That emotional consistency gave people something solid to stand on. Belonging is sustained by how you showed appreciation without obligation. You expressed gratitude freely. You acknowledged effort without demanding more. You celebrated presence without attaching pressure. That ease made connection feel nourishing rather than draining. You define belonging by understanding that people do not exist to meet your needs. You took responsibility for your own fulfillment. You invited others into your life without making them responsible for holding it together. That autonomy made connection with you feel like a choice, not a duty. Someone feels at home with you because you allowed vulnerability to be mutual. You shared yourself without oversharing. You trusted without collapsing boundaries. You showed that openness can be balanced. That mutuality made connection feel reciprocal, not one-sided. Belonging is also about how you let people leave. When paths diverged, you did not cling with resentment or rewrite the story with bitterness. You allowed endings to be honest and humane. You honored what was shared without demanding permanence. That grace allows people to remember you as a safe place, not a painful one. You define belonging by recognizing that love does not need to be loud to be deep. You understood that care is often quiet, steady, and subtle. You showed up without spectacle. You stayed without needing recognition. That humility made your presence feel genuine. Someone feels at home with you because you never tried to be someone else. You did not perform kindness. You lived it. You did not brand empathy. You practiced it. You allowed your humanity to be visible, and in doing so, you invited others to be human too. And in the end, belonging is not something you give once and forget. It is something you embody. It lives in how you move, how you speak, how you listen, how you stay. It is felt more than it is explained, so if someone feels at home with you, know this: you have done something rare and lasting. You have defined what belonging is not by words, but by presence. Not by promises, but by practice. Not by perfection, but by care. that kind of belonging does not fade. It becomes a quiet standard inside someone's heart, reminding them, again and again, that safety, respect, and connection are possible. And that is a legacy far deeper than being remembered.